What's up, and welcome to another edition of the Cover 2 Recap. I'm BruinSportsport.com publisher Edward Lewis. As always, this is Ryan Karchi, the UCLA beat writer for the OC Register. We're here tonight at CSU San Bernardino, where UCLA just wrapped up its 7th day of fall camp. And Ryan, there were about a million news and notes. Starting with injuries, first and foremost, Jake Brendel went down with a knee injury, and it looked pretty serious at the time. Brett Hundley was visibly upset, threw his helmet. Guys looked like they were about ready to cry. But Jim Mora said the preliminary results of testing, were his knee is going to be okay. We'll find out more tomorrow, but that's kind of the early indication. Randall Goforth aggravated a shoulder injury he suffered Saturday night. That might be kind of a 1, 2, 3 week kind of thing. We don't know yet. Jim didn't say if that was serious either. He didn't seem too worried about that one. A couple more guys. Zach Whitley, we saw in a neck brace. Apparently it's just a concussion. The neck brace is just to kind of stabilize the neck after he suffered whiplash from the concussion. Marcus Rios sat out tonight after a headache, Jim Mora said, and Scott Quisenberry also left tonight with, we're guessing, is some kind of heat-related, head-related kind of issue. So a lot of guys went down. So far, nothing appears to be serious, but the Jake Brendel one will be one to watch. In terms of other notes from tonight, 2 freshmen came back. Dwight Williams, the linebacker, and the wide receiver Jordan Lasley. They were both kind of, on suspension/non-suspension, depending on what you want to call it. But they're both back now. Quarterback Aaron Sharp is flying in from Texas today, and he'll be at practice again tomorrow. So that's kind of the wrap from the news and notes. Now, getting into a Week 1 recap, tell me your surprises from camp. I want to know who's kind of popped after these first 7 days, this first full week in San Bernardino.
You know, for the months leading up to this season, we just heard Brett Hundley talk about, endlessly about Eldridge Massington. He's going to blow up. This is his year. He's got, his knee's healthy. He's got his confidence back. And it was easy to kind of brush him off because, Hundley does that sometimes, kind of gasses up some of his players to give them confidence. But with Eldridge, he's completely proven everything that Brett has said right so far. He looks like one of the most athletic receivers on the team, bar none. I feel like every other play we see him catch, in their red zone drills, he's, jumping over guys. He's leaping, several feet into the air. He's probably the best leaper on this team. And it seems like he's really establishing himself as this, vaunted red zone threat. I think at this point, I don't know another guy who's looked better in the red zone. I know, maybe you have the potential of an Alex Van Dyke just because he's big, but Eldridge at this point, it looks like there's, I'm just surprised by how quickly he's progressed. I mean, he looks like easily a starting receiver out there. At this point, I wouldn't even be all that shocked if he becomes the number 1 receiver. And I think that definitely qualifies as, one of the bigger surprises of camp. My other guy, and I don't know if we've given him enough credit, I've been really impressed with Najee Torin. At the beginning of camp, we assumed he was definitely a second-string guy. Freshman, maybe he'd hit that freshman wall. A lot of times it happens with offensive linemen. Then Scott Quessenberry kind of looked like the guy in front of him. But then, even before Quessenberry left practice today, Najee was the guy. They put him in at right guard on the first-team offense. He seems like the best guard in terms of pulling because that's not exactly Alex Redmond's strength. He's definitely better at it than Scott Quessenberry is. It seems like, just in terms of what that line wants to do, Najee Torin seems like the best fit there. And at this point, for a somewhat lightly regarded recruit, at this point, if he can add some weight on and get stronger, we're looking at a guy who could be, a future all Pac-12 player, and that definitely surprised me. How about you?
My surprise, the number 1 surprise for me is Fabian Moreau. I feel like we've mentioned him every single Cover 2 recap, and it's just, we all knew he was good. I mean, Jim Mora called him a potential first-rounder and All-American, yada, 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 but he has really been that good out here, and I can't believe it. I mean, 2 years ago, he was a running back out here. I mean, we were laughing at him, trying to decipher if he could even play at UCLA. And now he legitimately looks like he might have an NFL draft pick after this season. So he's having a heck of a camp. That's tremendously surprising to me. The other guy is Kenny Young. We obviously saw him a lot in high school. I saw him at the Army All-American game. He was dominant there. But I always wondered kind of where his ceiling was. We knew his floor was high. I mean, he stuck his face in Leonard Fournette's face mask a million times when they were down there, playing in the SEC territory in high school. But I always wondered, does he have a whole lot more room to grow? And out here, he has definitely 150 million% shown that. And just like this first week, it's very obvious he's the best inside linebacker next to Eric Kendricks. And I wouldn't be surprised if within the next few days that gets actually officially named. He was out there making tackle after tackle after tackle tonight. I probably had him at 12, 13 tackles. And even in the swing pass game, the way he's able to diagnose and read it and go run it down, I mean, he has been incredibly special out here, and that's pretty surprising to me.
Jim Mora had plenty of compliments for him. He First he said he looked like an NFL linebacker. Then he said he definitely didn't look like an 18-year-old freshman. Then he said, he has a real presence out there that you can feel. At this point, I don't think there's any chance any of these other guys, unless they, really step it up with how well he understands the defense for a freshman. I don't see any other guy surpassing him, especially with Zach Whitley out.
All those guys had phenomenal nights, but give me one more guy that had a top performer kind of night for you.
This is another guy who I wouldn't necessarily call his performance a surprise in the last week, but I think Devin Lucien has been, great. Eldridge, obviously, we talked about how great he's been, how he looks like a number one. Devin very clearly came out this camp with the intention of becoming the number one wide receiver, and this is the best he's ever looked in terms of when I've been on the beat. He's had his normal great catches, but also he hasn't been only that. I know he told me that he's all about yards after catch this year, and you can tell when he catches that ball, he's turning and running faster than he ever did before. At this point, he's the only guy who can beat Fabian Moreau. I haven't seen anyone on the team, even Eldridge. Eldridge has gotten him a few times, but with regularity, Devin Lucien is the only one. And Jim Mora even talked about him tonight, how great he looked. He's just got this athleticism that is unparalleled of any wide receiver on this team. So at this point, it's going to be a real interesting battle for who that number one wideout is. But if you had to put your money on anyone, and tonight it definitely looked like Devin Lucien.
My guy is Darius Pickett. He switched from corner to running back, as we all know, and we've documented well here on the Cover 2 recap and all of our stuff. But I thought he looked really, really good getting his first real 11-on-11 full pads carries tonight. I thought he looked better in this last hour or two than he ever did at corner here at UCLA. Jim Mora kind of commented on in the post-game or post-practice press conference saying he runs heavy. He runs behind his pads. But not only that, he also has a little wiggle and a little shake. I mean, he took Kenny Orgioki, he bounced off of him, did like kind of a spin, and took off for another 20 more yards. I mean, it's going to be a while before, he's a legitimate contender for playing time because, he's so new to the playbook. And, even though he was at Bruin Woods studying it all day long, he still needs a little bit more time and effort. But I think he's got a really bright future there at running back.
It seems to me, and maybe I'm projecting a little bit here, but a lot of the things he said about Darius Pickett were concerns about the other running backs that are in the backfield. And it's pretty clear that they're not completely happy with the situation back there, as they shouldn't be. I think it's probably one of the team's biggest weaknesses. But if they can get Darius Pickett to contribute there, I mean, you're looking at a great offense.
That'll do it for our coverage from Day 7 of UCLA Fall Camp. As always, you can follow Ryan's coverage of UCLA on Twitter at Ryan_Karchi, and you can follow me on Twitter at Edward Lewis BSR. Until the next time, thanks for tuning in to the Cover 2 Recap.